Let's head to Winnipeg, and we got Larry standing by. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call.
Pleasure.
Listen, I was wondering if you could give me a little insight on Aurora Cannabis and why, and in my estimation or feeling, that there's been such negative sentiment on the company. Now, the metrics don't look good, but then again, they can only sell, less than 1% to the medical field, and buying stocks is about, future, earnings or future revenue translating into future earnings. And I feel that this will be an explosive thing for the stock. And could you give me your ideas as to why there's been the kind of a lagging wanting to buy the stock?
Yeah,
Thank
no problem.
you.
ACB.
So Larry, let's talk about the group as a whole, right? This group has had a tremendous run, and there are a ton of companies that were created, and I think some of them are going to have great success. But there's a lot of optimism built into this group, especially coming into the ultimate legalization. And lots of people have said, so why aren't they going up now? Market's all about anticipating what's coming next, and what's coming next is a lot of heavy lifting, right? There's going to have to be a lot of show me now. And I think the group probably is ahead of itself. In full disclosure, in my macro fund, I'm actually short the HMMJ ETF.
Let's put up a 1 year for HMMJ. You're short.
We're short. My view is that a lot of expectation was built in. Technically, it's kind of busted. And while I'm sure there will be some big winners in the group, right now it's under pressure. And that's at a time when there's other groups that are performing quite well. So I think you just want to be a little bit careful about, believing what all of the numbers will ultimately be. Some of them are going to be great, but I think there's going to be some companies that go away. And so I've just said, in that whole big basket, I know there are some winners, but there's going to be a bunch of companies that don't win.
We've got that marijuana ETF at around 17. Is there a point to which you think you might cover your short, David? Do you have any kind of a ballpark number?
If I can see some change in behavior, I always say, if something isn't behaving the way you would expect it to, given what you think you know, you may not be considering all the facts. And so when something has a lot of good news and there's no follow through, there's generally a reason you find out later. And so, one of my questions, I think, is, a lot of the Canadian marijuana companies believe that they will be the supplier to the world. And I'm not so sure.
I know, the world's been growing.
There's a reason why they call it a weed.
Yeah.
Right? It grows easily everywhere.
Yeah.
So I just think it's not as easy as that.
Yeah, they've had sophisticated producers in Israel and America for quite a while.
Yeah, so I just think it's going to be a tougher slug than people think. And I think there's a lot of good news is in the market. And now you're going to really have to show me the money.
We're getting loads of calls, so I don't want to bog David down. Apologies if I have. Rick in Vancouver, go ahead, please.
Oh, hi, David. My question is on Tencent. It's pulled back recently to a point where it's now trading below its 50 and 200-day moving averages.
Yeah.
Do you think this pullback is any cause for concern, or do you think this is a good entry point?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's pull the lens back. China has been smoked so far this year as a market. If you looked at the ASHR, which is Shanghai.
ASHR.
ASHR.
That's an ETF.
It's an ETF on Chinese stocks. It's really been creamed. So there's a tough backdrop here, right? Let's look at the sector. They're in the right sector. Okay. If I were to look at KWEB, which is the Chinese Internet ETF.
KWEB, KWEB.
And it holds BABA and Tencent and so on. It will look very different than the picture that's on the screen. It's pulled back a little, but way less than the Chinese market, because it's a sector of leadership in the global market. So Tencent is in that group. So if I was going to own China, I would probably own something in the internet group like a BABA or a Tencent. And in fact, Tencent has been rising relative even to the S&P since the beginning of April. So it's a relative outperformer, and I don't own the stock, but this is a group I would take a look at. I own KWEB in our macro fund, which is aimed at owning the big macro themes going on in the world.
Nizar is in Toronto. Fire ahead, Nizar.
Oh, hi. Hi, Andy. Hi, David.
Hey.
David, with the price of oil now heading to mid-60s, is there not a greater possibility of oil going to mid-50s with the Saudis increasing oil production and the sanctions on oil sales by Iran in November?
Okay.
Where do you see price of oil stocks such as CNQ over the next 12 months in this scenario? And do you hold CNQ?
Okay.
Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
Great question. Okay, if I take the lens back and look at the group itself, obviously last year was somewhat difficult for the energy sector. It's been improving over the last 5-6 months as a group. If you took the basket of producers or the basket of service companies, getting better. I am always about, when we're finding individual securities, what is it that improved during a time of difficulty? And if you take Suncor or CNQ, they were able to make some pretty good purchases at pretty low prices while nobody else cared. And so when I look at CNQ, their cash flow is growing really nicely. A lot of the capital investment is behind them. CNQ looks diametrically different than the energy producing sector as a whole. It looks much better. It's trading right at the top of its trading range. The sector's pulled back a fair bit in the last couple of weeks. It's held in really nicely. It is an outperformer of the group, and it's one of the biggest positions we own in the firm. It pays a great yield. There's going to be great dividend growth going forward. Now let's talk about oil. If you put up a chart of DBO, which is the ETF for oil, point and figure chart on DBO is just fine. It's certainly pulled back. I don't think you can make the case right now it's going to the mid-50s. I think probably it's pulled back to the low end of the trading range and more likely to rally off this. But I think I'm constructive on oil. I'm constructive on energy as a cyclical theme. I wouldn't be a big overweight on the group, but I would own the best companies in the group, and CNQ is one of them.
Okay, we've got to take a break. We'll be back with David Burrows taking your questions on North American large caps. 1-855-326-6266.